Moses, why exactly do you feed these birds? Because in our national park areas or our private game reserves, for those of you who have been there, you remember they put posters to warn each one of us not to feed wild animals. But here, I'm already doing the opposite, maybe contradicting myself, but the feeding we do here is not as per the word feed. As I always bring them that small box of meat every 1 o'clock every day, and this is a way of drawing these vultures away from places where they get persecuted. How then do they get persecuted? That's what we're going to discuss down there. But if you still want to be up here, please don't get disappointed, as I do have these charts here. If you read these charts, you also understand the reasons why we feed the vultures. But before we go down there, I always read 1 or 2 from this chart here as an introduction, and I always take number 3, which says 8 of Africa's 11 vulture species have declined at an average of 62% across all regions over the past 30 years, so conservation efforts are crucial. So ladies and gentlemen, this is part of conservation. If you look on this chart here, you will also find that we are working with BirdLife of Zimbabwe, and this is Zimbabwe National Parks and Wildlife Management Authority, and here we do have Victoria Falls Wildlife Trust, and where we are today here is Victoria Falls Safari Lodge. So these 4 joined together so that we try to save the vultures, as they are also very, very important, especially if we talk of ecosystem. Vultures do clean the wild before diseases are spread to human beings. So I always say we need these vultures more than they need us. If you look again here, globally, vultures are the most endangered group of all bird species. And with that, 3 of our vultures are now critically endangered. And here we are talking of number 5, the white-backed vulture, number 2, the hooded vulture, as well as number 4, the cape vulture. So imagine, ladies and gentlemen, if we wait for another 30 to 50 years, surely that would mean to say there won't be any vultures left on the face of this earth. So this program is for us all, so that we share ideas how best we can save the vultures. Some of you here, you remember stories about the dodo birds. Yeah. Those birds were all wiped out. The same can happen to the vultures, that is if we don't change some of our behaviors as human beings. So, if you still want to be closer to the vultures and hear a little bit more about these vultures, please, you are welcome to join me. But as we go down to our vulture restaurant, some of you here might be new in Africa, and maybe you are not quite familiar with this type of terrain, but here we do have a motto which always guides us here, where we say there is no hurry in Africa. Pole pole, that means slowly, slowly. So please, let's walk slowly to avoid injuries. Not to spoil your own vulture culture experience, please avoid a lot of movements. I'll put the meat there, quickly come back, then I'll start explaining as the vultures will be feeding. Once I finish, I'll hand it over to you, then you ask questions or you add on what I have said. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Look at this. When you hear the word vultures, now you understand.
That is nice fish, like
It's fish.
well, that's fish, yes.
Good,
So we do have 2 types of vultures already here. If you look at the smaller ones, those outside with pink faces, those are the hooded vultures. And the bigger ones with black hooked beaks, those are the white-backed vultures. And the taller guys in black and white, those are not vultures, those are maraboe storks. Also other fascinating those ones, but we'll talk much about the maraboe stork later. Let me quickly get back to the reasons why we are feeding these vultures. Studies have been done to ascertain the reason why the vulture population has been dropping year in, year out. After those studies, a lot of results were pointing at us human beings. How then do we get involved? If you look into the farming side, most of the farmers in our region here are those type of farmers who practice subsistence farming, and there is no much of crop production in this region. So most of their wealth lies in the number of livestock they own. So if a farmer wakes up in the morning checking on his livestock, only to find out that 1 or 2 beasts have been killed by predators, that would be a great loss to that farmer. So what they think of is to eliminate or to do away with those predators once and for all, so that there won't be any such losses in future. That's when they come up with ideas such as putting poison on the leftover carcass, hoping that if those predators come to finish their kill, they feed on poisoned meat and all die. But forgetting that those predators are also very, very sensitive animals. Whenever they sense human movement, especially in the early hours of the morning, they quickly move back into the wild where they belong. And when it's daylight, what comes first is a vulture. As you can see right now in front of us, these are gregarious birds. They always feed in big numbers. So imagine if we put poisoned meat here, how many vultures I would have destroyed in just 5 to 10 minutes. It means this wolf flock which came here today can disappear on just one carcass. But remember, vultures do not multiply all that fast. A single vulture lays 1 to 3 eggs per year, which takes 54 to 56 days to hatch. Once they are hatched, they don't leave the mother's nest until they are sub-adults, which will take another 4 to 5 months. And you never find 3 babies in one nest because of what we call siblicide. This is whereby the biggest of these 3 or the strongest pushes out its siblings. So vultures always raise one baby. So for us to come up with a flock just in front of us here, this can take 2, even 3 years. And imagine that all the birds which came here were all females having babies back in the nest. That would also mean the number of babies you would have lost. Because if the mothers die here on the feeding site, it means the babies will also die in the nest, that is of starvation. But if the poison isn't strong enough, allowing these vultures to fly back to their young ones, they'll be also carrying warm poisoned stuff, which they'll regurgitate to their young ones, which will die in the nest, and the mothers and later on die. All that affected the vulture population, but still on those farmers, some of those farmers do have access to drugs. Whenever they have any sick animal, let's say it's a cow, they take their drug, inject the drug to their cow. If that cow doesn't recover, ending up dying, and the farmer doesn't bury it or burn it, and the vultures come feed on the carcass, they sometimes die because of those drugs. There are also drugs which don't kill vultures on the feeding site, but once they consume such carcasses, they sometimes get disturbed genetically, whereby in their future they'll start laying eggs without stronger shells. And those eggs, they always crack or they break before they are hatched. That affects the vulture population as well. Let's look into the poaching side. Poachers are also other big culprits. Whenever they come in our national park areas or our private game reserves, they always sneak during the night using moonlight just to avoid game rangers. But if it's daylight and they happen to come across a big elephant with big tusks, they shoot it. By the time they'll be working on extracting the tusks, these birds would have spotted them. They start soaring around, some landing on the nearby big trees, waiting for their turn to do what they know best, cleaning the wild. That would be feeding on carcasses. But if there's a national park game ranger nearby, somebody goes there to check what the birds have seen, only to find poachers at work, who then get shot. But in such incidents, there are sometimes survivors. Those are the same people who risk their lives coming back in our national park areas, no matter even if we eliminate their colleagues. But those people have been asking, who has been spying on us? We came during the night, nobody noticed us. We've tried to hide all our tracks, and all of a sudden, we've been attacked, only to realize that vultures are their biggest enemies. Whenever these birds locate any poached animal in the wild, they always alert game rangers. So after extracting the tusks, some of those poachers, they sometimes poison the whole elephant carcass, hoping that all the vultures in the region will come, feed and die, so that in their next hunting, there won't be any vultures or less vultures to report them to the National Park Game Rangers. That had also affected our vulture population, but still on those poachers, some of those poachers realized that using firearms to kill elephants is also reporting themselves to the game rangers, because whenever they shoot, game rangers pick the gun sound and obviously they start tracking those poachers. So some of the poachers came back with another idea of using poison as a silent way of killing elephants. They bring in poison, like cyanide poison, which they put in water holes where all animals drink. Sometimes they put that cyanide poison where animals lick natural salts. And with that type of poaching, they end up killing anything. Tuskless elephants, baby elephants, not only elephants, all our animals, hyenas, lions, crocodiles, tortoises, and all other species of birds. In Hwange National Park only, which is our biggest national park in Zimbabwe, we lost about 150 to 300 vultures because of cyanide poisoning. It was a massive destruction. Well, if you look at me as an African, some of our African people do believe that these vultures do carry various parts on their bodies which can be used as traditional medicines to cure diseases. We also do have some of our African people who play state lotteries or any type of gambling. Those people believe that vultures do dream where there are carcasses. So they kill the vulture, take the head which contains the brain, that dream that much, take it to a witch doctor, hoping the witch doctor will mix with another charm and come up with a much stronger charm, which they believe if you stick a vulture head under the pillow before you go to sleep, it helps you dream the correct combination of numbers to play, and the next morning you wake up a millionaire. So our people are also reducing the vulture population because of those superstitious beliefs. Well, without wasting much of our time, if you look in our African savannas, there are sometimes diseases out there, foot and mouth, for example, anthrax, rabies, but human beings have never been bothered that much with those diseases. Why? Because these vultures have been always standing in between us and diseases. Whenever there are carcasses in the wild, these birds, they quickly get in, take all the meatish part of the carcass. Once they are done, another set of scavengers like hyenas, they also get in, take the bones, and the carcass is quickly recycled before diseases are spread to human beings. So these vultures have been looking after us for thousands of years, but look at what some of the people do. They are retaining the favor by reducing their numbers, which is very, very wrong. So in short, I would like to say to you, my guests, it's never too late to save the vultures. That can start here today with you and me. Some have taken nice photos, good videos, and I know you are going to replay and play your videos, decorate houses, offices with those photos, but I always advise my guests that there's another way of using those photos and videos. You just edit them, make your own short documentaries, send them out to relatives and friends who never had the chance to come closer to the vultures, and by doing that, surely you would have helped us very, very much in this vulture awareness campaign, so that we do have vultures for the future generations, for the good of the ecosystem, as well as to teach or educate one another to live in harmony with nature. Those are some of the reasons why we established this restaurant here, which we call the Vulture Restaurant. And this is where we practice the vulture culture. Thank you very, very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you have any question quickly or anything to add before we leave?
Tell me the lifespan of this vulture.
Oh, the vultures, they've got a very good lifespan. They can live 40, 50, even 60 years, especially under captivity, because they won't have a lot of challenges when they are in a zoo or if they are kept under captivity. So vultures have got a very, very good lifespan. If they are left alone and disturbed, there are chances for them to multiply. But the bottom line is that we need them.
So you feed them once a day?
Once a day at 1 o'clock.
And this food is enough for the day?
No, we don't have to feed them to get full. Once we do that, they'll start depending on us, and they want to do their job to clean the wild for us. So it's just an appetizer or a starter. Otherwise, if you look at them, they still look healthy to me, all of them, even if I'm giving them just a small portion. But they all look healthy. Because the main reason is to push them in the wild where the only enemy is a poacher. Because if they go in our even urban areas, they look, we have got electric lines we are developing, and the vultures have got a very big wingspan. Some of them 2.5, some 1.5 meters wingspan. So once they locate an electric line, they can't easily change direction. So they end up hitting themselves on those electric lines. They get electrocuted. Sometimes they are lucky not to be electrocuted, but once they crash land, they sometimes break their legs or wings. Once one of those gadgets is lost, they won't be able to take off, then they become vulnerable again. So our aim is to push them in the wild where there's a lot of food for them. We do have lions, they catch and they take advantage of that. And sometimes there are natural deaths of animals there. So they've got a lot of food than to come in our farming areas or our urban areas. Those tall buildings, they sometimes build themselves there. So like in Botswana, they maybe might have heard, we lost about 537 vultures in just 3 weeks. That was in 2019, June, July. Poachers came, killed 8 elephants, removed the tusks, and they had to less poison on top of those 8 carcasses. And then about 537 vultures were counted dead. And that is the biggest loss in the recorded history so far. And some